Canon, come on. I wanted to love this so bad. I'm still trying to love the Canon EOS R5 so badly, but it's been so difficult. I've had the Canon EOS R5 for 2 days now and have been shooting with it non-stop, and so wanted to give my initial review of what it's like shooting with the R5, how it's been, the pros and the cons. And so to get the cons out of the way, let's tackle those first. First is obviously the hot topic, pun intended, and that's the overheating.
Fire! Oh, fire! Oh my goodness! What's the procedure?
So first, I guess I should say that I live here on Maui, and so obviously it's going to be a lot hotter, more humid here than where you are. But I've never had an issue with overheating with any of the cameras that I've had before. I've shot on a ton of cameras, and with my style, with how I shoot, it's not a long shooting format. It's always just quick little pieces put together, and so I've never had any kind of issue. But with the Canon EOS R5, it was overheating. And again, my style hasn't changed. Trying to turn the camera off in between as much as possible. The longest I shot was like 45 seconds. And I should note that it was because of the 4K 60 that it was overheating. Now, maybe I'm being a little camera entitled, but I feel like 4K 60 is kind of becoming a bit of a standard in a camera. If you're trying to compete, 4K 60 is what you gotta have. And it was just so frustrating not to be able to shoot as much as I wanted or as much as I could with this R5. And I didn't even get a chance to get into 4K 120. And so just with the 4K 60, that was apparently too much. I just wasn't able to get the work that I wanted to get done, and if I was out with a client, it would cause some issues. The next big issue that I found was with the IBIS and that wobble with the wide lenses. So another caveat was maybe that I'm shooting on EF glass, it's not the native RF lens. I was shooting on a 16-35. And so again, maybe there's some kind of issue there that would make it a little bit more noticeable, but like, dang, it was a little bit more than noticeable. It was super evident. It looked like I was watching some crazy old GoPro footage that was thrown into warp stabilizer. It looked pretty bad. Now, this was something that I only noticed when I was vlogging, when the camera was on me and I was really moving. I was also rock hopping while vlogging, so that probably added a little bit more to the reason why that warping and wobbling was going on. But still, if this was a client video and not a vlog, all that footage would be unusable. Now, maybe I wouldn't be doing this for a client video as well, so that makes it a moot point, but still, it's kind of frustrating to have all your footage look like Jello.
And what is the problem here? You put my stuff in Jello again!
The third issue that I ran into was that the camera stopped recording midway through a lot of my takes because it said the card wasn't fast enough. Now, I bought what seemed to be the best and fastest card on B&H. So maybe it was a card issue and I'll have to test out other cards, but regardless, again, it was just a frustrating situation of not being able to record the things that I wanted. It only happened a couple times, but still, I feel like it shouldn't happen at all. Maybe that's just me being entitled with what I'm looking for, what I want and need in a camera. The last final issue that I ran into was when shooting photos. Right now, the raw format that the photos are in cannot be read on Lightroom or Photoshop, so it wasn't possible to open those photos. I did a whole shoot for a brand and wasn't able to look at them. Now, Adobe did release a Camera Raw update, and I was able to then go into this new Camera Raw version and switch over all the raw files into DNG and then be able to export into Lightroom. So the problem was solved. I was able to actually get in and see all of the photos, and they were great. But again, maybe this isn't necessarily just a Canon issue. This is also the Canon, Adobe, and who I'm relying on to actually see my stuff. But regardless, it just made the experience a little frustrating when I just wanted to see what this camera was able to do. But it wasn't all negative. There were some things I loved about this camera and why I'm still hopeful that maybe there can be some workarounds and things will be able to turn out for the best. I want to love this camera. I want to love it so bad, but so far it's just been a little difficult. So the first thing that I loved was the image quality in the video. When the 4K 60 was working, it was incredible. I love the quality that's coming out of this camera. And that's not just the 4K 60, everything that I shot was great. I love that this camera is shooting in 10-bit, that it's got a C-Log option. It allows you to get an amazing image, and it is definitely a step up from the EOS R. So video quality wise, when it does work, no matter what it is, whether it's the 8K, the 4K, the 1080, it does look good. And this goes for the photos too. Shooting with a 45 megapixel camera is great. I've never had a camera that's had this high of a megapixel count, and when reviewing the photos that we got for this brand, I was blown away. The quality is awesome. You're really able to crop in and still see a ton of detail. The image quality for photos is great, and if you are just a photographer, you're not gonna run into any overheating issues. This camera is great and would highly recommend it. One of the other pros was the autofocus. I, again, have never had a camera that has had eye tracking, whether that's for animals or for people. And so that was great. That was this amazing added bonus that made it easier to rely on the camera, trust the camera to get the right focus. And for the most part, it did amazing. I loved the autofocus. Another new feature that Canon added into the R5 was the in-body image stabilization. And so while it was a bit of a con when shooting on a wide lens, vlogging, getting that bubbly, warpy, awful jello crap, it was great getting the creative or cinematic shots that I wanted to get. The IBIS is really good, and even on an EF lens. It was smooth, it was steady. It is a pro for most of it. So, all in all, I'm torn. Like I said, I want to keep this camera. I want to love this camera. But if I'm not able to shoot at the frame rate or the resolution that I really want to, feel I need, and maybe I don't need it, but if I'm not able to get the work done that I need to get done, I can't keep the camera. Now, there's rumors going around that there might be a recall or there might be some firmware updates that could fix a lot of this stuff, and that would be amazing. I, again, would love to keep the camera. So, I don't know, Canon, the ball is in your court. Please fix these issues. Please do something. I wanna love it. I wanna love it. I'm trying to make this review as honest as possible. Let me know what you guys think. Have you had any kind of experience with the R5? What was it like for you? What do you think of the pros and the cons that I listed? Would you keep this camera with those cons or with those pros? Let me know in the comments below. Thank you so much for tuning in. Make sure to like and subscribe if you haven't already. It really does help and make a difference. And I'll see you on the next video.